Hi, I'm Howard Primer, and this week I'm beginning a conversation with you from my home, which is only fitting because we're going into Thanksgiving week, which is commonly, if not always, an exciting time to be at home as we go into the holiday season. So it's also a good time for me to veer off the course that I set for you before and have a four-part series that talks about housing in the era of COVID. As you know, this pandemic that has befallen us, not only in the United States, but throughout the world, has dramatically changed the style of living we all have to pursue. And the common solution that everybody is paying attention to is living at home. And so it's a very appropriate time for us to talk about how the housing industry, those of us who have participated in housing, those of us who are committed to housing, those of us who make our living in housing, the housing industry has been a miserable failure during this pandemic. And why do I say that? Well, over the next 4 weeks, we'll talk about it, and I'll be very specific in different ways. Today, I just want to talk about the reality that we need to pay attention to the fact that you, like I, right now, am having to live in a totally different way and occupy our lives out of our homes. We work from home. We begin and end every day in a situation where we're confined to our homes, where our industries, our country, our nature of life is totally changed, in which we're pushed back into solitude, living at home. And home is really the point that makes us all understand the importance of housing and the importance of home. You do not have a home without addressing housing. And housing should really be focused on the idea of home. You're part of a society in which your home is becoming very central in many ways that it never was before to the way you live. I have had to do that, and I have to confess to you, because I believe in being as open and honest as I possibly can. This idea of being at home all the time after the loss of my bride has put me into a form of isolation that is very challenging for me. And I know I'm not alone. I know that the need of many in our society for care and service has been dramatically increased by the virtue of this pandemic, this COVID, in which we're quarantined constantly in a desire to keep us in remote contact with people. We're engaging through video. We're doing it out of our homes. And we as an industry, the housing industry, have been miserable failures. And this whole question of our primary motivation and this question of the consequence of housing in the age of pandemic, in the age of COVID, is a reason for us to have a really honest and open conversation before I embark on the conversation that I promised about talking about the other primary motivation called meaning. Right now, we need to talk about housing as it is, housing that is focused on the primary motivation of money, and really see the consequences of that through housing. So stay tuned for the next 3 weeks, this week and the next 3 weeks thereafter, as we work our way to Christmas and talk about the idea of what our duty should be to be a service industry in the face of the pandemic we live in, to manifest a clear understanding of how we have failed to fulfill our duty and our obligation. So thank you for tuning in today. I look forward to talking with you again, and I ask you to do one thing for me, and that is follow me on whatever form of media you like, on YouTube, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. Follow me so that we may begin to engage with one another in a meaningful way to lead to a future that can be greater than the future we now live in. I look forward to being with you again in the future. Thank you very much. Again, this is Howard Primer. and I am passionate about housing.